I'm Dr. Laura Sidari, board-certified psychiatrist.
And I'm Dr. Tony Sidari, board-certified rheumatologist.
And welcome to our podcast, No Cure for This, giving you what to say for medicine and life when you have something you can't fix, and all you can do is cope, adapt, laugh, and keep showing up. We're here for the stuff that isn't a guideline. We'll talk about burnout, stress, relationships, and everything in between.
Although our work as physicians informs these discussions, this podcast is not for treatment purposes, and any descriptions of patient situations have been modified to protect confidentiality. For any direct medical advice or treatment needs, we recommend you seek the care of your healthcare provider.
For some of us, it may begin with a diagnosis that changes everything. For others, it may be the loss of someone or something that we can't imagine living without. These are the moments that there's no getting to this other side. There's no fix. There's no roadmap, no matter how much we may wish it would be otherwise. These are the moments that are about finding a way to live through, not to get to an end point, not for survival, but to find a way forward. These are the conversations that we're here for in medicine, in marriage, and everything in between. So with that, Tony, can you share a little bit about yourself?
I'm Dr. Tony Sidari, and I'm a clinical rheumatologist, board certified. I practice here in Ithaca, New York, in a small community hospital setting. Dad and husband to 4 living children and a little fur baby dog. And of course, husband to yours truly. I'm the weeknight chef and preparer of meals, AV tech support around the house for whenever an iPad or a computer's not working. Or maybe somebody's speakers can't connect correctly. I'm also a, constant support for, I think, for you and the kids when those tough times come along. Tell everybody a little about your background and more about you.
In addition to being your wife, yes, I'm also a physician. I'm a psychiatrist. And different from a traditional psychiatrist, I work in the world of integrated psychiatric consultation. So I work closely with primary care teams, helping to provide psychiatric consultation to primary care providers and primary care physicians to help them care for their patients. So although I love working one-on-one with people, it's really rewarding to be able to share my experience and my expertise to help large populations of people. I work for the same regional health system that you do, and it's really a privilege to care for my community members, those that are our neighbors and that we live and work closely with. Psychiatry is a field that really surprised me. I grew up as the oldest of 3 girls, and so I've always been interested in understanding people. However, I went to medical school thinking that I wanted to be maybe a pediatrician or an internist. And my 3rd-year rotation, I just fell in love with learning about others, their stories, and helping them to find a way forward. I'm a mom to 4 living kids alongside you, Tony, and I am not the AV tech person, so that's where I love looking to you for that. I am the household organizer, although that doesn't really come naturally to me. It is the job that I try my best to do.
I know we all appreciate it.
And working remotely from home helps with that. So being able to toggle between helping out with the kids and being on call with that, and then also being in multiple clinics helping with psychiatric consultation has really been one of the awesome things about remote care and virtual care. I'm very creative and I enjoy, I'm not a good painter, so I can't really do well with that with drawing, but I really like to take complex ideas and try to find simple ways to explain those or repurpose them. Tony, why don't you share a little bit about our relationship?
So our relationship, depending on folks' knowledge of some pop culture icons, I would liken our relationship most to Favorites like Starsky and Hutch, or maybe at times Bonnie and Clyde, the legal version. And maybe, I think the most apt comparison that hits at all levels is probably Spock and Bones, if I had to just give one descriptor.
I don't know if all of our audience members may know Spock and Bones, so tell me, how do you come to that
I'll delve
one?
more into that. So Spock and Bones are Star Trek characters, and I would liken and have heard described that in our relationship, you're more Spock. You're the highly intelligent one, which is definitely true. Kind of all-knowing and planner of things.
I don't know about that.
In day-to-day life, I'm good at my job and I'm good at the things I do, which anybody would argue Bones is. But when things go wrong that are outside my sort of my worldview, just like Bones, I would be apt to yell back. I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand. A doctor, not a mechanic.
Bones is really a catastrophizer when things go wrong outside of his medical element, and I guess that's me to a T.
I don't know if Spock and Bones were romantically involved, so I would just kind of put that out there. I agree with a lot of the parts, though, that you shared otherwise.
Why don't we talk about what this is all about?
No cure moments are something you and I have been talking about for a long time. And although we don't have, I would say, like deep conversations every night, what I know is that when we do have these really meaningful conversations, it helps us to feel more fulfilled, especially with the things that we're struggling or working through. As a couple, one of the most difficult pieces that we've faced has been the death of our son, Leon. And as we both shared in our introductions, we make a deliberate effort to say our 4 living children, because really our family is one of 5 children. Our oldest son, Leon, was born during our medical training. And as we were learning to be physicians, we were also learning how to be parents. Everything from backyard adventures in his little boy loafers to bedtime stories that he talked about his favorite forest creatures. And when he died in 2017, it hit us out of nowhere. He died due to complications of flu just a few days before he was set to receive his flu shot. As physicians, losing a child to vaccine-preventable illness is devastating in additional layers. It's enough just to lose a child, let alone all those pieces. And you and I, we've had to navigate together, as well as individually, all of these different seasons of grief, and we still continue to be in that process. Everything from how can we be good parents and then also be survivors of child loss? How can we live with regrets and also live with great joy and great satisfaction? How can we care for people medically and then also experience such devastating change for ourselves? And so that's really where this idea for the podcast came out of, these conversations about things that we can't change, but we have to find a way to reconcile, not one or the other being right, but finding ways to hold both at the same time and continue to grow our love and our care for others with our family and in medicine.
Yeah, I think the no cure moment, like for us and for anybody, is kind of that idea of when something like Leon's loss or medical trauma, be it, anything from a terrible diagnosis to medical error to just trying to navigate the system. And then just these things show up in life too. It doesn't have to be medical. It's this idea of I have to get to this eventual place of everything's going to be okay. And I remember when we were initially grieving after Leon's loss, that feeling of like, grief is supposed to take 6 months, or how long does this go? And it's that idea that both truths can exist. Like, he was part of our lives, and we can still live like a fulfilling life with our currently living kids and incorporate, parts of him into that. And that's why, they know who he is, and we share pictures and memories, and it doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't make it that it's all like, rainbows and unicorns, like everything's perfect. But I think with this podcast, it's trying to address similar sort of situations, and it's more of a humanities and medicine and life sort of approach than anything medical knowledge based or medical assessment and treatment. At the same time, things that we'll cover will still be evidence-based, science-based.
What I hope to also have with this podcast is audience engagement. There's going to be a lot of opportunities in between these conversations for audience members to comment on social media, to be able to pitch or send us their own questions or ideas. And that engagement, even though these conversations are happening between us in these spaces on the podcast, I really view that as part of that larger conversation that we're hoping to grow. Because what I would hope is that eventually people like ourselves who are experiencing the loss of others, as we all are going to experience in our lives, whether it be a child or a spouse or a parent, that they have a place to go to have these conversations. And that my hope is that we have more opportunities to talk about these things, that there is no clear answer. I view this podcast for us as a way to build more meaning and build more purpose in our lives that fits with these other areas that we've been building together, that we find a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation for.
If you enjoyed being part of this conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and give us a follow. If you have any questions, topics for future episodes, or a no-cure moment of your own, be sure to leave them in the comments. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
For sleep, it's really disruptive. And actually, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, one of the strategies that we talk about is not having screen time, putting those boundaries on that.
Can you speak to the person that thinks, I'm doing this and I find it relaxing?
It's actually not relaxing us, even though it feels like it's an escape.
That dysregulation afterwards is real. We see that the best with our own kids, whether you're a child or you're an adult. It affects all brains in a similar fashion.
The developmental part is concerning for the kids, but it's also that relationship with us, because if they're on the device and we're on a device, we're not connecting. For the developing brain, it's incredibly important, making healthy connections and breaking unhealthy connections.
So how do we reconcile and move forward